Hi, my name's Chris Wise. I'd like to present to you all a whiteboard presentation about the comparative analysis of continuing care retirement communities and independent living. The story starts with my grandmother. About 20 years ago, my father sicked me on her to get her to move into a retirement community. I armed myself with 3 different brochures, drove up to Manhattan, banking on some gas money, lunch, perhaps the opera, traveled up in the elevator, presented her the brochures, and got a swift door on the back side saying, "I'm not moving in with a bunch of old people." Typical response. Retreat to my car, driving home back to the Cape, scratching my head saying, 89 years old, when is she going to be old enough for retirement living? So I went and really studied the genesis of senior housing, which started about 50 years ago with the Quakers and the Presbyterians. So the CCRC all consist of typically independent living, assisted living, and nursing. So a typical independent living has the heat, gas, electric, upkeep, maintenance, replacement, repair, all single metered so that the hassles of bill writing and everything are alleviated. The next component of the CCRC, I bracket with dollar signs because the owners, the developers, the bankers, the architects get together and build assisted living. They build the nursing wing, doctors' stations, certified nurses' aid stations. Today, popular Alzheimer's wings are starting to pop up. All expensive, all a function of a fixed overhead of what I often refer to as a cruise ship. So many retirement communities, because they're all contained in a cruise ship, then start to add more dollar signs. And they build the bank that comes in twice a week, make trade-off with the travel agent, the beauty parlor, the convenience store, all the components that make up a town square, shall we call it. So in reviewing this model, I realized that there were a lot of things different from ownership. They have what's called a return of capital plan where you put down a deposit. Typical CCRCs have a return of capital plan of about $450,000. It's their entrance fee. The monthly fee for independent living is around $2,500 a month. Industry average for assisted living, about $4,500 a month. You'll get 45 minutes a day of care with a 15-minute incremental biller. Important to know that this is ever changing. So this is just an example to help people understand the differences and the comparisons between retirement communities and independent living. So again, I'm sore on the backside from my grandmother shushing me out, and I came back home and built my first Wise Living project. Built it in Chatham, Cape Cod, independent living. I single metered the building for heat, gas, electric, upkeep, maintenance, and repair, similar to all independent living retirement communities, equal to. I also believed in ownership. So this is condominium form of ownership. You have equity, choice, and control. Equity, choice, and control. Typical model over here, it's a return of capital plan. You don't have ownership. If you fall below a certain health criteria, often you're moved into the assisted living. You have no choice over healthcare. The goal for Wise Living properties are to be town-centric in a community where 80% of our residents have lived within a 5-mile radius for more than 20 years. So if you live in a 5-10-mile radius, the bank, the church, your travel agents, the beauty parlor, the restaurants, all of the conveniences of what you're used to don't change. You don't have to change. Here we plant ourselves. So compare that to a big retirement community where you've got this more self-contained environment where you don't have choice. You're paying for the upkeep and the replacement of everything in this. I'd much rather, again, be integrated into a town square where your relationships already exist. So we get into an important part of it. Not many people like to talk about healthcare, but here's how it works. When I built my first Wise Living, I built them with 5-foot turnaround radiuses in one bathroom, a 3-foot wide doorway, flush thresholds, elevator accessibility throughout the whole property, safe so that if you have health issues, home health care agencies can simply plug into your apartment home and deliver the services. Today, hospice is a home health care. You can get dialysis on wheels. Within the next 2 to 3 years, it's all reverting to home health care. So the model of home health care being delivered into an apartment complex, condominium ownership, 24-hour staff, concierge services to help you make these coordinations was the simple answer I had from my grandmother. 1994 and 1996. 1994 and 1996 were major turning points in senior housing. You all might remember in 94, assisted living became the craze. Everyone was building assisted living. They were popping up all over the place. So much so that the state stepped in and made assisted living become a licensed environment. So in 1994, not unlike a nursing home, assisted living became licensed. What happened in the industry is that all of these retirement communities and even standalone assisted living properties started to contract with home health care agencies for their delivery of care. 1996 rolls around, and it's the beginning of the medical reimbursement reform. A tongue twister, but to simplify it, for those who have eyeglasses, you might recall your ophthalmologist did your refraction, the puff puff in your eyes. Today, a technician. Blood used to be drawn from your primary physician, your favorite doctor. Now you go to a blood lab. Another example would be the birthing process. 30, 40 years ago, if a mother went in and had a C-section, she could stay for up to 2 weeks and get buffed and polished and sent to Oz, and the insurance company wrote the check. Today, you could have a Z-section and it's 1 day, maybe 2. They will send you home for medical reimbursement to get reimbursed at home health care. So 96 became a big change in the medical reimbursement, which basically caused assisted living to become a private pay environment. So 1994, assisted living became licensed. 96, it became a private pay environment. On Cape Cod, I had some competitors that used to poo-poo wise living and say, independent living, home health care, going into the apartment home, doesn't work. It's not the strength of the superstore of our continuing care retirement communities. One of my competitors, about 8 years ago, got rid of their assisted living, built more independent living units, and maintained relationships with home health care agencies that now plug into the apartment home, deliver the same care that you could get in assisted living, and now all of a sudden medical reimbursement is more applicable. Bigger example, you all have heard of Marriott hotels, not many haven't. Some of you may know that Marriott got very involved in senior housing. Well, who better, right? They've got the whole ability to service people. They've been in the business forever. What did they do? They got out of the entire industry 8 years ago, roughly. Why would Marriott get out of the industry? 2 reasons. 1, they could afford to. They had another machine that was working well. And 2, I believe that they started to recognize the pitfalls of medical reimbursement, giving people choice to stay in their environment that they'd wish to stay in, and they sold. They sold to Sunrise, SRZ. If there are any stock jocks out there, you might want to type in SRZ, go back to a 10-year look-see. You'll see that Sunrise bought the majority of Marriott's portfolio. At the time, their stock was trading at $34 a share. I believe 2.5 years ago, it went to 60 cents a share. The return of capital plan, there are 3 retirement communities in New England that have gone bankrupt in the last 4 years. What happens to a return of capital plan? These are questions that, in time, are starting to unravel the complicated cruise ship model and bringing it more towards an independent lifestyle and independent program for home health care agencies to come and service you. Equity, choice, and control. For sure, my grandmother, like many people, don't want to leave their home, don't want to contemplate moving to a big retirement community, and typically don't until a wheel falls off the cart or there's a calamity within the family that needs to have some form of intervention. At that point, everyone gets together and mom and dad get moved to the big retirement community without understanding the complexity, the daunting complexity of how insurance is changing reimbursement and choice. So at Wise Living, it's a home. We have people that are starting to move into Wise Living at the age of 50, 60, 70. They're not contemplating it for health reasons. They want to advance their life. Many people do a straight condominium move and will find that they'll need to move again. Wise Living, you're buying into a condominium that has so many services that are a la carte. You pick and choose from evening meals, lunches, breakfasts. Never participate in all three. It's your choice and control. The expenses, again, to live at Wise Living cost less than living in an average home. Wise Living, it's 17 checks a year. 4 for the real estate taxes, 12 for your telephone, and 1 for contents insurance. Everything else is included in a monthly fee. That all in costs less than living at your home. Heat, gas, electric, upkeep, maintenance, replacement, repair or replacement of all of your appliances, and a concierge program that's there 24 hours a day. So should a daughter or a son call in and no one is around, someone can go and find if mom and dad are out and about, or maybe we'll go up and check on them in their apartment. Those worries are gone. It's about living. I introduced it to my grandmother 20 years ago and she did move in. And she lived there until she was 96 years old. 2.5 years ago, I moved my mother into Wise Living. She is one of the more active people that I've ever met in my life. She's still, directing theater and musicals and plays organ in a church, and got rid of the house and the hassle of the home and moved into Wise Living and is absolutely flourishing there. So again, it's about living. It's about home. You don't have to struggle and fight staying in home until the children say it's time to move. Make the decision yours. I encourage you to look at our website, penguinhall.com, wiseliving.com. There's a lot of ways to learn more. Feel free to join us for presentations or call us anytime. Thank you very much.